Hello my dear gardening friends. 5 causes of winter damage on roses. And this video will kind of echo another video which I did several weeks ago about 5 mistakes which beginner rosarians can make with, in taking care of the roses in fall. But this video will have a different look at the problem of rose survival through winter. So cause number 1. Cause number 1 would be we apply winterization, whatever we do, mulching, covering rows with buckets, insulating rows, putting leaves on the rows. We apply it too early. And why it is important to wait for first several good frosts coming into your area, if you live in cold weather of course, and then only go ahead and winterize your rose. Because rose needs to go into dormancy on her own terms. Here I am calling rose her. And the coming into dormancy is a somewhat slow process. Rose has to do it on her own terms. And if we interfere, and by interfering, we put this nice mound of soil around the root system of the rose, and it's nice and toasty and warm inside there, and rose is understanding that, hey, it's still warm outside, it's nice and toasty here, I might still produce blooms, or I produce growth, so I don't need to go into dormancy yet. And then, oopsie, cold weather comes and rose is not there yet to meet the cold weather. So always wait with winterization, whatever you do on your roses, for the first really cold weather, snappy weather coming in, and then you can go ahead and winterize your rose. And by winterizing, of course, I mean any winter protection you need to do according to the area where you live and according to the rose you have. Second cause of winter damage of the rose. It will be trimming roses in the fall. And you know what, sometimes when people tell me, oh, you have to do this, you cannot do that, I always want to know why. Because if you understand the process, you don't need to remember the rule in a way. So here, why can't we just trim the rose? We are going to trim all this new growth next year nevertheless. What's the big deal? I heard sometimes people talk like that. And we have to understand, when all these new tender shoots are shooting up, coming up, the stem is actively moving sap around, and that sap makes the stem vulnerable to winter damage. When the rose go into dormancy, the movement of sap slows down, the quality of that liquid is different, rose is managing sugar contents there differently. But when suddenly the rose has to support this new growth, she goes into action and sap rises up from the root system, and here comes the cold weather again, and rose is not ready. Of course, this shoot would be damaged because it's not ready for winter, and of course we will trim it, but at the same time the whole stem might be compromised. So what I do when I have this octopus roses, you know, roses which I want to keep as a shrub, but sometimes they sow these long shoots, I trim those long shoots in summer. In fall I don't do it. Now tomorrow we're going to have a first day of fall. So I'm stopping on trimming my roses, these long wild shoots, and I will do the trimming of them when the cold weather comes, roses into dormant stage, and rose is not going to react in any way if I trim those shoots. So that's cause number 2, going too close to winter with trimming. Cause number 3 of winter damage. Very strong freezing winds. And of course we garden with different microclimates in around our houses. For example, here I have a backyard. My backyard is very secure. Winds are not here at all, so my roses are very nice and happy here. I never had any issues with cold wind damage. But in the front, I started to introduce several roses several years ago to the front, and I have Boscobel rose there, and that rose is right in the middle of strong winds going up and down the street, and she's not doing very well. So what happens to the rose when it is in dormant stage and there is a strong cold wind constantly pushing against the stems? Cold wind has a tendency to take the moisture away. And because the rose is in dormant stage, the root system is not capable to supply sap back or liquid back to the stems, and stems might dry out and get damaged, and rose would be damaged coming out of winter. So that's important to know. And if you have a rose which is hardy in your area, but it is on somewhat windy location, open, exposed location, make sure that you do a little bit extra of winter protection on that baby. And this way the chances of survival of that rose would be so much better. Cause number 4. Too much moisture. I have in front of my house, I have 3 beautiful maple trees growing. And maple trees have a funny, interesting tendency. When you put them together and you wet them, that's exactly what happens in the fall. Those leaves have a tendency to create this muck, unpenetratable layer of leaves stuck together, and nothing can break that barrier. So if you are the gardener who does the rose protection with leaves, do keep in mind that you really don't want to use maple leaves, or you want to mix it with oak leaves. Oak leaves are the best. And of course, different gardeners do different mediums. Pine needles, branches from pines are good too. The old-fashioned way is to pile a hill of soil. Of course, you don't want to dig it right near the bush. You want to bring it somewhere from another spot in your garden. But if you do it with, for example, here I have this netting. This netting was protecting my new baby rose in spring. I'm going to take it off next year. Hopefully I will have a good protection from the back here from my rabbits. But if I want to put leaves here inside, I'm not going to put maple leaves, which I have plenty of, and I don't have oak leaves. So I'm not going to do that. Probably I will do something different. And the last cause of winter damage, number 5, would be letting rose to go into winter very weak. And of course, some people, and believe me, I was there at the beginning, I would look at the rose. Rose is ridden by black spot. It's almost bare standing in front of my eyes. And I'm thinking to myself, what's the big deal? Let the rose go into dormancy, let her overwinter, and next spring it will be so lush and beautiful again. And who cares about this rose right now? Well, that's not the case really. A weak rose has harder time surviving winters. Weak rose has harder time collecting all the nutrients in the fall to help itself to go successfully into dormancy. A weak rose has hard time withstanding cold temperatures. So what you need to do, if you have, for whatever reason, a weakened rose, rodent damage, you name it, somebody drives into it, somebody steps on your rose, who knows, you have to again do a better protection on your rose. Help her out, protect her more, make sure that that rose is not going to be damaged in winter and will survive successfully. So that's it. These are 4 major causes of winter damage on roses. Happy gardening. Please do subscribe, and I will see you next time. Number 5 would be letting rose to go into winter very weak. My gosh, another blooper, very weak. Oh my gosh, very weak. So another cause of winter damage would be to let rose go into winter very weak.